Hi chess friends, this is King's Executor and I'm giving you another 2013 Alekhine example, a game from the Cappelle-la-Grande tournament this year, and it's a game between John Capon 2239 and Evgeny Yanev 2469. So black is I guess a master, or maybe already grandmaster. We have the modest variation here, the main line, I guess the main line of the main lines, and knight f3 here, just relying on a spatial advantage and a solid plus equals position for white, not trying to refute the Alekhine. And well, this is not the move I recommend. I always recommend the Mars variation takes here. Best is to take with the knight and then c6 with a plan to exchange of the knight. And if we take and white takes here, then this is a inferior version. You get your bishop out, you play e6, bishop e7, castle short, and you get a kinda Caro-Kann position. So in this position, the player dropped back, maybe not to give white a tempo, but as I said, I would have taken here. And now a4, a try of the white side from time to time to get the black player into trouble. Well, you could misplay this as black, and the best way to encounter this is just to stop this pawn and not have to worry about it. Check, c6, bishop d3. So this is not the best white should try or could try. Now we take on the pawn, and pawn takes. The bishop, the queen's bishop in the Alekhine, is the piece which has the highest priority to watch over when it should be developed. In this case it is developed because the knight is on f3, which you should pin, and we want to play e6, and we don't want to have our bishop dying on that c8 square. Now the bishop is kicked and the knight is exchanged, and that makes sense because the central pawns are on light squares. They kinda replace the bishop's absence. So we have castles and knight d7, queen g3. So black is kinda looking how to castle now. The bishop on f8 is kinda pinned, so let's look what would have happened after bishop e7. Then queen g3 would be even stronger, and if castles, then the typical bishop h6. So this is why black played in this way. And now queen c7, attacking the pawn, defended, and knight to c5, attacking the most active white light piece. It's dropped back, and actually this pawn could be taken now. I don't know why black didn't go for it. But black played another interesting move here, a move which weaker players play in almost every position, but in this position it's good. F5. So the queen is watching over G7. This is kind of French idea. If you imagine the pawn on D5, and now the pawn here is defended. Now the queen should come here, so the bishop can move, and the pawn is protected by the queen, and then we can castle short. But of course the question is, what if white would have taken, white played knight c3, but what if white would have taken en passant? Well then, I think black intended to exchange queens and destroy white's pawn structure on the king side. And now you have nice central pawns and weaknesses on the king side. Let's go on with the best moves. I would hit these weaknesses and check king f7, and now I wanna prepare h5. h5, the king is vis-a-vis the black rook, so white would probably try not to open up the file. And now we just pass, kicking the rook, h4, so you can attack this pawn somehow, and h4 from white isn't possible. And afterwards, this could be a try. Of course, if black takes this, then the better pawn falls, so we would not have allowed that. And after g7, well, we can round up that pawn. We can give the a pawn, and I think black's activity after, say, b6, kicking the bishop, maybe knight f4 and e5, rook here maybe at the right moment, and white has an edge in this position. So I think white would have some positional problems after taking en passant. That's why he didn't do it. Knight to c3, queen f7 to free the bishop. Well, black could have castled long here, and then h5, h4, kicking the queen. Then the queen probably moves aside. Afterwards, bishop e7, and then g5, g4. I think this looks promising. I would have gone for that. I don't know why black played another way here, and this is because simply that f pawn is already pushed. Then castling long seems to be very much promising. Bishop e3, and now if bishop e7, and I think this would have been the best move. Maybe black thought, okay, he can take this, I have to recapture, and I will lose a tempo. But this is an exchange, a bad exchange. White would cede the bishop pair, and black can consolidate very fast with castles afterwards. Black trying to play in a mixture of that mana which I recommended just some moves ago with castles long. He wants white to take, and then there's this pawn, and he wants to push the pawn with the bishop on e7. Push it, and then there's this open rook's file. But this looks a little bit elaborate. Over elaborated, maybe. White just moves aside. Bishop e7, and now white plays very good. b4, queen takes b4, and now the knight on b6 is attacked, so white is gaining time and momentum, and he's playing perfectly now. King f7. And then this remarkable move, rook to d6. This interferes with the bishop and knight. So this knight is attacked twice and protected only once. All in all, that means white is going to win the exchange here. Two ways to answer as black. Well, just let's look at the threat. The threat is simply to take the knight, takes, and then white would be the exchange up for the rook, and have a strong pass pawn here. So there are two ways. One is to play b6, but then takes, queen b7, attacking the knight twice. And the queen was attacked on b4, and the knight would have only one square, and then we just take it. And you see the bishop is pinned to the king and cannot take the rook on d6. And the second way to play is the way the game proceeded. Bishop takes rook, pawn takes, b6, protecting the knight, takes, queen infiltrates. Let's just drop back. If knight takes, then queen takes b6 simply. So queen b7, rook a d8, and now very good. Now you see that f5 and e6 are bad pawns. Well, these pawns would have been better. Let's just drop back. If black would have castled long, so you can attack with these pawns and push them instead of defending them. Let's drop back. Bishop c4, rook he1, and now queen takes pawn, queen f6, and the knight is introduced. So the last piece is introduced to the attack. Knight e5, queen takes pawn. The knight is harrying the queen all the time, but this is already a losing position for black. You see, black gets out of the pin. Knight c7, very good. Queen c3, counter-attacking. But now rook takes pawn, rook takes rook, knight takes rook. And check. Let's just drop back. Of course, the rook is attacked, so if takes, and then the knight is hanging. So we can understand that black is trying to play this way. And check again. g3 simply. And rook c8 to attack the bishop. The knight is taken, and in this position, queen e8 check would have been the strongest continuation for white. The king has to go to h6, and queen e7 now, threatening mate. f4 to prevent this, but now there are two ways. One way is check and pawn to d7. Queening cannot be stopped. And let's just drop back. Pawn takes pawn is another way, and if rook takes, knight takes rook, and the queen is protected, the white queen. So if queen takes with check, king here, and you cannot stop the pawn. White played knight to f8 check, and this actually allows a remarkable draw. Knight takes h7 check, and we have a perpetual here. Of course, now the king is on f6, and if the knight drops back, it's simply taken. Well, an unfortunate continuation for white. Black got out of it miraculously. Let's just recap the game. We could have arrived here, let's say takes, and the Miles variation, and a5 here. Well, you could answer it with knight here, for example. It's okay, but a5 should be good as well in this position. The actual game continuation is this. Check, takes, bishop out, correct, and e6. Knight d7, still correct, attacking the pawn. Knight c5, and now the pawn should have been taken here. But maybe black was afraid that this takes time and white can somehow attack black's king side, but it's not so. f5 is a good move if you back it up with, for example, castles long or a quick castle short. Queen f7, and now queen g6. This is not a forcing move, so why do you do it? Why don't you play bishop out, castles, and then you can push your pawns, h6, g5. Okay, so this is where black starts to swim, and after bishop e7, black hands the initiative to black. And in this position, bang, really nice, really energetic. The rook was taken, b6, and queen b7. Rook defense, and now every piece is joining the attack. Knight e5 attacking the queen. King g6 getting out of the pin. Rook is attacked. The white rook is attacked. Takes, check. And black cannot even take the knight. It's defended, check. So we attack the bishop, and this is the really worst situation for black. If white would have found not knight f8 check, but queen here. Unfortunately, white played perfectly after black's fooling around with his queen, but he unfortunately didn't find the nice continuation. So check, and with king f6 black managed to hold a draw, and with a perpetual check, draw was agreed. I hope you liked the game. Thank you very much. See you next video.